Thank you so much. As it's customary, I would like to begin with a series of acknowledgements. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Professor Zafar and the Professor Aroni for their leadership as chairing the sessions, and also Professor Kraft for the nice, outstanding presentation she did. Thank you so much. And of course, my heartfelt thanks to going to the ESOP team and also Greek Adolescent Medicine Health team group for this organizing this significant event and raising this kind of the topics for all of us. And of course, I extend my warmth regards to all the esteemed participants, sending you greetings from the sunny Istanbul. In my presentation, we are going to talk about the forced migration, which is focused on the adolescents, which I would prefer to give a title about the adolescents on the move. First of all, I would like to define the definition of the forced migration. As you know, there is a conflict about the definition of the refugee, forced migrant, and the immigrant. A migratory movement in which element of the concerning exists, including the threats to life and livelihood, whether arising from the natural or man-made causes. Why not an international legal concept exhibited until now, but it described that it is involuntary movement from the natural or man-made causes, like movements of refugees and internal displaced persons, as well as the displaced by disaster as well. So main differences that we define it with a strict one is the necessity and threat level. Refugees and the forced migrants leave their countries due to the compelling reasons, while migrants move voluntarily. But the refugees flee from direct threats like persecution or war, whereas the forced migrants relocate to the natural disaster or economic reasons. And the most important difference about the forced migrant is the legal protection. Legal protection, as you know that the refugees are protected under the international law, while migrants are subject to the laws and immigration policies of the country they move to. But forced migrants, however, lack a clear international legal status. In summary, we can say that the refugee is the people who forced to flee due to the persecution or threats to their lives. Forced migrants are those displaced by the natural disaster, economic collapse, or similar reasons, and the migrants are the individual who choose to move voluntarily for better living conditions, education, or job opportunities. These three terms describe the different displacement, each with distinct legal status and the condition I mentioned before. Here, I want to show a infographic about the international displaced person. By the end of the 2023, around 76 million people were living in internal displacement as a result of conflict and violence, as well as disaster. As I said, around the end of the 2023, there were 76 million people who were living in internal displacement because of the several conflicts, as we see from the news. And around 69 people were in 66 countries were internally displaced. And it was the 9% increase from the 2022, and it was a 49% increase when you compare the last 5 years. And that means that the refugees and the forced migrants numbers are increasing. And when we see the countries whose the refugees come from, the first 5 countries are the Afghanistan with the 6.4 million, Syria 6.4 million again, Venezuela 6 million, Ukraine 6 million, and the South Sudan is the 2.3 million. When we look at the hosted countries, the first five hosted countries, the first one is the Iran, Islamic Republic of the Iran, with the around 4 million hostage. And Turkey is the second one with this 3.3 million. Then the Colombia, Germany, and Pakistan are coming as the 5 countries who hosted the and protected the international law that we mentioned before about the refugees. I guess you can see my other slide about the global trends of the forced displacement. When we look at the trends, as you can see from the picture I shared, the number of internal displaced people, the dark blue, has seen a significant increase over the years, and particularly between the 2020 and 2023. As you can see, the number is also growing, but it's not included the last conflict of the Palestinian refugees that we know the last year between the Israel and the Palestine. But because of the especially Ukrainian-Russian conflict and the Syria also, Pakistan and other countries affected so much, so the number is increasing and it's a big trend to forced displacement. In 2023, there were 47 million new internal displacement that include also the forced movement of a person with the borders of the country for their habitual residence. But the important thing is to look at the Europe, how is it gaining increase in the last 3 years. It started from 2021, Europe, because of the special conflict and the violence between Russia and Ukraine, new internal displacement due to the conflicts and violence increased and it's continue. And after the 2023, it started to decrease. But you can also see that the disaster triggered 56% as the 27 million new internal displacement recorded according to the data. So what is the motivation? What is the migration drivers? Human migration is a global phenomenon, as we know. In 2020, about 281 million international migrants and hundreds of millions of internal migrants have changed their place. But why do people migrate in the first place? As you can see from the infographic, there are several reasons that we can discuss, and most important are the demographic, economic, environmental issue, human development, security issues, supranational disasters, politico-institutional issues, socio-cultural issues, and also, of course, individual ones are the motivations of the migrants to move to another country. What about the children and the young migrants? A significant portion of people displaced due to the forced migration cost of the children.
Slides are still not moving.
Still not moving. Okay, I will get the confirmation after this one. I will continue. Is it okay right now?
Well, we see this slide with the graph of displacement, but we don't see the infographic. There you go.
Right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's strange. Sorry, I'm really sorry for that. We were talking about the child and the young migrants. What about them? As you know, a significant portion of the people displaced about the forced migration consists of children. According to the UNICEF, around 33 million of the world refugees are children. And these children face major challenges in accessing the healthcare, education, and the basic rights. When we look at the data, the collecting and disaggregating the migration by age, it is essential for analyzing the age dynamic of migrant populations. When we say the children, it also includes the adolescents as well. But as you know very well, the adolescents are the important portion of this children groups. And children and young migrants are at risk of the abuse, trafficking, and exploitation, especially if they travel alone through the irregular migration pathways. For child migrants, thus are disaggregated by age, sex, and information on whether children are accompanied by a parent family member, guardian, or are particularly important to determine the potential levels of the protection needs during their transit and or arrival. When we look at the adolescence, when we look at the adolescence, as you know, the adolescents are the individuals who is aged between the 11 and 19. In some countries, it is 21, represent approximately 22% of the global population, making them one of the largest demographic groups. Despite this, they remain one of the most underserved population in many healthcare systems worldwide. In context of the forced migration, when we're talking about the adolescents, these health challenges are exacerbated. Studies indicate that the forcibly displaced adolescents are has the many risks about mental health disorders such as post-traumatic stress disorders. And when we look at the data, it shows that this number is increasing 70%. Additionally, physical health issues like malnutrition affect around 30% of the adolescents in refugee camp, according to the UNICEF 2012-2022 reports, making this healthcare access even more critical to this important group. As you also know that we read several guidelines about the immigrant children, but unfortunately, there is no specific guideline available for adolescents who have been forced to migrate. This creates a significant gap in terms of the care and differentiated clinical approach that should be shown to adolescents. In general speaking, I saw from the internet guideline, from the internet search, most the American Academy of Pediatrics has prepared the guidelines under the following headings. You can see from my slides for the immigrant children, including the adolescents, which are about the immunization, parasitic infection, HIV screening, malaria, Zika, newborn metabolic screening. These are the combined and not separated. Apart from the sexual health, these are the combined guidelines for all children. In fact, we must not overlook not only adolescents who migrate with their family. There is another issue that we should also focus on that. Some adolescents, some children migrate with their family, but also those who are, there are some left behind when one or both of their parents migrate. These adolescents face unique challenges as well, and as being health professionals, we also ignore this group as well. So we should consider them in our politics and the guidelines again. We shouldn't forget about them. When we look at the health impacts of the forced migration on the adolescents, you can see that the physical health issues, it is especially important to access the healthcare when a forced migrant adolescents in the refugee camps has limited access to many health facilities. Apart from that, malnutrition, when we look at the reports from the WHO, 25%, which is an amazing number, 25% of the adolescents in refugee camps suffered from growth shortening because of the malnutrition. Another issue is the risk of the infection disease, from respiratory infection to the other gastrointestinal infections. We can see among the adolescents, but the most common seen are the respiratory infection. And it's also important sexual and reproductive health issue. Sexual health education and support are critical, during the adolescence. In the context of the forced migration, access to this service is severely limited. Therefore, problems about the reproductive health and sexually transmitted infections are critical again for this kind of the group. Here is I would like to share an infographic from another research, a potential migration path of the Assyrian refugee family. I don't want to go to the details, but in summary, the effect on the families and children divided into three temporal distinct phases: war exposure, displacement, and the middle one, acculturation. Summary of impacts on the children, as you can see that I don't want to go to the details, but you should understand that after the migration, the journey starts, the adventure starts again with the health issues. So the adolescents also, as you can see from this one, not separated from the childhood disease and the childhood effect from this migration. When we look at the traumatic experiences and the mental health issues, the process of the forced migration can lead to the intense experience for adolescents, and these traumas are triggered by the event such as losing a family member, leaving their homes, and feeling unsafe. For example, in one study, 40% of the adolescents have the post-traumatic stress disorder. In another one, it was the 60%. And depression, anxiety, and the other mental health issues are common within the adolescents group. The other one is the family dynamics and the burden of the responsibility. The challenges faced by families during the migration can place extra responsibilities, especially on adolescents. They may need to take on roles as providers or caregivers, and it is stepping into the adult responsibilities prematurely. For example, according to UNICEF reports, adolescent refugees often leave their school to support their families and care for their siblings. And these percentages around 9 and 22% when you see the data. And the other one is the tension within the family members, the family relationship, the trauma and the stress experienced by the families. During the migration can strain the relationship between the adolescents and the other family members. And this makes the more difficult life and more difficult situation for them. Here, I don't want to go to the details, but I want to talk the social isolations and the exclusion. As you know, the adolescents may struggle from the social connection and integrate into new environment. One of them is the language barrier, cultural shock, losing the friendship and not obtaining the new ones. And forced into the early adulthood, I mentioned in my previous slide, but we understood this one. Forced migration pushes adolescents to take adult responsibility at the early age. They may be required to provide financial support and, as we said, the caring to their family members. But the other important thing is, especially for the adolescents girl, early marriage. Adolescents girl may be forced into early marriage or the workforce into forced migration. And this is the biggest one of the problem and the popular problem between the adolescents group. My last slide is about the working together. What should be done should be discussed between us. Fortunately, many studies and the guidelines on the health of the forced migrant children have been developed over the last 5 years. However, adolescents still do not receive the necessary attention. As European Academy of Pediatrics, we are working on various guidelines within our adolescents working group. Additionally, we are sharing our reports with all stakeholders to influence the decision makers. I would like to invite you all to join us and combine together and work together to make better environment to this kind of the group. Please send me the email for the whole list of the references. I want to say thank you so much and sorry for the problem that we faced about my presentation. Thank you.